Wine Tuesday out here at Solitaire Natick. My name is Eric, and not only do I run the wine program for this location of Cell, but the other Solitaires as well. And if that weren't enough, I also do the wine program for a sister restaurant, Les Bollier. So I kind of eat and drink for a living, which, as I always say, makes me very fat and happy. So tonight, our theme is Home for the Holidays, and I always like to do this one around this time right before Thanksgiving, as this sort of marks the time frame when there are all sorts of family get-togethers, sort of holiday celebrations. And, very often these meals are often accompanied by specific types of food. Obviously, we've got Thanksgiving coming up very closely. And that will be turkey and stuffing and all this sort of standard fare. I promise you we're not going to give you any turkey before Thursday, so we thought we'd hold off on that. And then you've got Christmas and Hanukkah and family get-togethers. Whether that would be more turkey or our family around Christmas time always had ham. I'm sure that everyone's got their own sort of tradition. So what I wanted to do tonight is kind of float out there some wines that are really versatile with these types of foods. Very often with these sort of holiday get-togethers, the food pairing up with the wine can be a little bit difficult. One of the things that, I'll save that for when we talk about the Pinot Blanc. Turkey is inherently rather difficult to pair wine with, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But I wanted to start off with a little bit of Sancerre, which is really starting to become my absolute favorite white wine these days. It comes from the Loire River, the Loire Valley in France. Loire is the longest river. It runs, 350, 400 miles long. And tucked along the banks of the Loire, there are all these little villages that are all making wine. So there's a lot of different wine styles that come out of the Loire Valley, but the mainly what you get is white wine, because it's a rather cool climate. Not to say that there aren't villages that are specialized in doing red, but they have small amounts of red, kind of pockets here and there, because the Loire River is a really cool growing climate, and it's very often difficult to get the reds nice and fully ripe, except for a couple of twists and bends that are there in the river. They actually do a pretty good job with red. The main grape variety that they end up working with is Sauvignon Blanc. That's sort of the workhorse grape variety that you find in the Loire River. Now the Sauvignon Blanc grape itself, the vine is really hardy and does well in all sorts of different types of growing climates. So Sauvignon Blanc is one of these grape varieties that's very widely grown all the way around the world. Typically out of the Loire Valley, when you deal with Sauvignon Blanc, to me they always get this sort of crisp, sort of nice green apple, Granny Smith apple flavor to it, usually a good amount of citrus. Because it's a really cool climate. If you do Sauvignon Blanc in sort of a moderate climate, like maybe something coming out of Bordeaux in France, you move into more, I think, sort of golden delicious red apple flavors to it, sometimes some pear. But if you do Sauvignon Blanc in a really warm climate, like, say something coming out of Napa Valley or Sonoma in California, you get like this rich sort of expressive style of Sauvignon Blanc. It's very grassy, citrusy, very often kind of a very big, full-bodied style. Now this is coming from a specific village called Sancerre, which I think as far as white wine production is definitely one of the most famous villages there in the Loire. It's way down on the eastern end of the Loire River, emptying into the Atlantic Ocean. But if you follow it down and almost all the way to the end, there's this little village of Sancerre. All the wine that they do from there from white is based around Sauvignon Blanc, which is what we have in the glass right now. The reason why Sancerre is so famous is where the vines are planted, there is a huge amount of mineral that's there in the soil. And the resulting wines always pick up that minerality, which is where that spiciness kind of comes through. Typically in Sancerre, it's generally high acid, very crisp, very tart, very clean, very refreshing. And most of the ones that I like don't have any oak to them whatsoever. There are Sancerres where they will age in oak that makes them a little bigger and beefier sort of style. But I prefer ones that are done in stainless steel, such as what you have on glass right now. There's a little tiny producer called Grand Perrier that I'm not hugely familiar with. This is one of the wines I get from one of the smaller companies that I deal with here in Boston. I think there's maybe like 4 or 5 people that actually work for this company. It's rather small. But these guys are always traveling. They're always out on the road. Invariably, there's 1 or 2 of them that's over in Europe hunting around for stuff. And this is one of their finds that they went to this big Loire tasting. I think it was in the springtime of this year. And they're really excited to find this property, and they started bringing it in. When I tasted the wine, I thought, this is fantastic. This is a really good example of Sancerre. It's got that nice sort of richness to it. A little bit full in the mouth, but still that really tart, really zippy acid, that good amount of mineral. And it's this style of wine that works extremely well with all sorts of different types of food. I find that Sancerre pairs up with just about anything that you throw at it, unless you start moving into like really hearty red meat type of things. But as far as vegetarian dishes, poultry, definitely seafood, whether it be shellfish or freshwater, even saltwater fish. I think Sancerre holds up really well. So one of my favorite ones, and I hope you like it too. So if anyone's got questions on things, please feel free to ask. As you can tell, I have no problem talking, so I'm happy to answer any sort of question you have for you tonight. So please, enjoy. You're welcome.